You are live. All right, welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Moshiach Matters because Moshiach matters. And with tonight's opening class, Baruch Hashem, we have a double parsha, Matos Umasai. And let's get cracking. A lot of crazy stuff happening in the world, all birth pangs of Mashiach, all signs that the redemption is upon us. And I hope everyone is starting to realize that not only is Mashiach the best way, it's the only way. Because if anyone can point to one so-called world leader or anyone who thinks they're going to get us out of this mess, and I'm sorry, I support Trump, but I do not believe that he's going to solve the world from all their problems. Way over his head. We are in so deep, and the complexity of the deep state is so enmeshed with the so-called regular government. It has got to the point where it is impossible to really decipher who is who is lying, who's telling you the truth, what side is what. All I know is it's a giant circus. And just remember ancient Rome. As both sides continue to escalate against each other, the forces that are behind are laughing and working on doing their nefarious schemes. That's how they do things. They keep you occupied by entertainment and then do what they do behind the scenes. And, let's bring Gula. That's what we need to do. Add light. Okay, Aleph. Meninim hayuchadim b'yom Shabbos Kodesh zeh. Shabo Messiyanim b'Sefer B'Midbar. This is a special Shabbos because we are concluding this week's. The fourth book of the Torah, B'Midbar. It's Shabbos Mavarchim and Shabbos Chazak. Sefer Rish b'Torah. Shesiyoyma mahus gam siyom kol haTorah. And this also brings out the completion of the entire Torah. Because, as it's known, the fifth book of Torah, Devarim, as I say in the English vernacular, Deuteronomy, is actually what's called the Mishnah Torah. It's a recounting by Moshe of all that took place before. But the actual, if you will, base of the Torah are the four books, and that is what we are completing now. And we know that on Shabbos that we complete one of the books of the Torah, we say, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Be strong and strengthen others. Shemra al Chazak, D'bnei Shavakot Torah. And this is referring to the strengthening of the Jewish people and all our matters connected to the Torah. V'oi, Shechayzik Gufo, Gimel Pa'amim. And we know we say Hazak 3 times. And the 3 is what we call a Hazaka, or a completion in Judaism. And it's a sign of strength. The Srik Laham Akasha V'Hashayvas Yisiyom Sefer Revis. Torah the Tuchnoshel Hazman. And we have to understand the relevance to the completion of the fourth book of the Torah in the times that we find ourselves. And we know that we always complete the fourth book of the Torah during the Shabbos of the 3 weeks of the narrows, as they're called, the constricted times of these 3 weeks that we're in. And in many years it happens within the 9 days. The Chorazman the Gemashivois, the Prat Teshayamin, Kashur Ima Odu Metzav Shah Halishis. But Kedusha, Hefik Batak the Chazak Chazak Venir Chazek. So seemingly, during these 3 weeks, and especially the 9 days, they're normally associated with times of what we would say is weakening, or the opposite of strength. And yet we're saying Chazak Chazak Venir Chazek. We must be straightened. The מודגש יויסר הצריך והכרח חיזוק חזק חזק ונתחזק. And since that we see this is connected to the situation of weakening, therefore it emphasizes the need that we need to be strengthened even more. אבל יויסר נראה לו אמר שתחזיק עצמן כאשר עם תוכנה של חזק. Even more is to say that the strengthening itself is connected with this whole idea of the time that we find ourselves in. And it's emphasized in the name of the Shabbat, which is called Shabbat Chazak. Hainu. And the whole idea is that we should strengthen ourselves in our connection to Torah and mitzvot. And obviously, those of you who know me know that I come from a very secular background. I'm what you call a Baal Tshuva. Even though I have not mastered Tshuva, I've returned to my observance later on in life. And there's no other way. At the end of the day, ultimately, we all have to return to God because God's our creator. And the entire world is in a mess right now for the exact reason of the opposite of that, is that people have turned their back on their creator. And it's like the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, where people just think they can do whatever they want. There's no repercussions. And, it just doesn't work that way. At the end of the day, God gave us an instruction manual, the Torah, clear manual of instruction for both the Jewish and the non-Jewish people. You have a not good connection. Maybe you have a not good connection, sir. I don't know. I'm live over here, and my connection's good in my house. But thanks for pointing it out. Because at the end of the day, God creates us, and that's our instruction manual. And if you're trying to operate the most advanced piece of, I don't want to call it machinery, but there's more moving parts in the human eye. One strand of DNA contains more information than the largest supercomputer in the world. And yet people try to operate it without a proper manual. It doesn't work. So anyhow, that's the idea, to strengthen our observance of Torah and mitzvot. Base. And first we have to preface this whole idea of getting strengthening ourselves and others. The Teichen HaParsha Shebo Nisyamin Sefer Parshas Matos V'Maseh. Though it could be your internet connection, because as far as what I'm broadcasting out, I'm sitting right in front of the actual plugged-in internet connection. I'm not on Wi-Fi, so it wouldn't be choppy at all. There's no Wi-Fi connection here. It's right plugged in. So it could be yours. Maybe I try to log off and log back on again. Okay. So this is connected to the Parsha in Matos V'Maseh. Because you have the idea of strengthening from ending the Parshas Matos, strengthening from ending the Parshas Masai, and the strengthening of finishing both of them together. So let's talk a little bit about that. Inen Chazak, Prat Gam Kain, Gimel Pa'amim Chazak, Tzurek Lamatos. So first you have to understand Parshas Matos. Mateh, moral choizek v'toichef bli yishonai. Matot, it means a tribe, but it also means a staff from mateh, which is basically a stick or a staff. And the whole idea of a strong stick, it's really what's going on. The whole idea of a stick is that it's strong, right? If you take a strong wooden stick, right, it can't be broke, and it cannot be changed. It's not subject to changes or to movement. That's what makes it a staff strong. It's solid. Because it's something that's strong and hard. Oh, that's weird. You have a droppy on you, so your end is also choppy. That's weird. I don't know. That's very strange because I am not on a Wi-Fi connection. I am actually plugged in directly to the internet in the wall in the wall. Okay, so a mateh is a staff, and it also is from a lashon mamshala v'shora, which literally means to rule from a high place, right? Like it's a mateh is also it's referring to the tribes, right? So it's talking about a place of ruling where you're in an elevated state. Matois ois el shevati meyushalim. It's that the tribes, and each one of the tribes, they ruled with strength. So the whole idea of matot is something that is strong, that is unbendable, that is unwaverable. And this is not the case with Maaseh, which is the second part of this parsha that we're in now, which is referring specifically to traveling and to moving from one place to another place. And you're not standing in one place. Mate, I think it's matcha. Oh no, it's Spanish. I was thinking about there's a Japanese tea called matcha. Oh yeah, okay, interesting. Mate is a type of tea in Spanish. We'll add that to the Var Malchus footnote. That so that is referring to Maseh is traveling. From place to place. Not standing in one place. But rather you're traveling to a different place. And this is the opposite of something that is strong, because when you're moving from place to place, you're in a constant state of changing. And it is the opposite of something that is standing in the same place and not moving, that's showing the strength of being firm. And from this, the announcing of be strong and strengthen others. This is specifically in the end of Parshas Maseh, right? Because we finished the Torah, the book of Bamidbar, at the end of Maseh, even though Maseh and Matos and Maseh are a dual Parsha. Not always, but they're combined this year, and in many years they are. Nevertheless, when we say Chazak, Chazak, we need Tazek, it's emphasizing that the main part is Parsha Maseh, that it is the last book of Bamidbar, which is Maseh, which is the opposite of strength. It's moving. In fact, it's known when one travels from one place to another place, it doesn't strengthen you, it weakens you, right? Talk to anyone who just gets off a plane or a long, like road trip, like it's exhausting. Just the matter of going from place to place when you're changing, it's affecting your body. So it seems to be this movement, Maseh, which is traveling, the opposite of something that is strong. So let's dig into this and figure out what's going on. Gimel. Something that is strong, the Rebbe says, specifically is referred to by the number 3. That's why chazaka in Hebrew is referring to when something happens a third time. It's called something that is permanent, something that is strong. I have a personal rule of thumb that I've adapted throughout the years, and that is just, I'm not saying there's a basis for it, just in my own life, and I found that it works pretty well, that if you've heard the same thing from 3 different people, right? If for whatever it is, positive, negative, a change, something you should, be doing, some kind of messaging, if you're getting the same idea and it's coming from 3 different people, well, I'm willing to say with a very strong degree of certainty that is God speaking to you. Because, God doesn't really, lean over and whisper in your ear. He talks to us through other people, through signs, through things that are happening. And we're getting the same idea, the same messages. You're like, wow, I've been hearing that a lot recently. Okay, well, guess what? There's a reason for that. So if it happens 3 times, this is considered hazaka. That means that it's permanent. That means that it's a very strong likelihood, if not a for sure, that this is a message that God wants you to be doing something with. with and taking to heart. So we know that, first of all, the idea of 3 is strengthening because it gives a place for one place opposite the opposite. In other words, the number 1 is referring to something that is starting off with good. It's positivity. It's holy. It's there's no opposition. That's it. There's one God. That's it. One is indicative of something that is strong, that is holy, without opposition. And then you add the number 2, Mispar Shemin, the second thing, and what happens like on the second day of creation. Now you have Maklokas. You have the potential and in actuality of opposition. You have what's called as a neged, something corresponding to you, right? Like a misnagid is the opposite of a chassid. So the misnagdim, those who are opposing in opposition, right? You have Mashiachistim, you have misnagdim, you have what they call them, the anti, so the opposites. So that is already causing strife or opposition when you add a second entity or a second number or a second opposition. And the number 3 is indicative of something that is strong in holiness because it counterbalances the other 2. Just like we know that the third, we have Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. If you have Chesed, Gavor, and Tiferet, the first, second, and third days of the week. The first one is Sunday, is Chesed. Everything is good. Second one gives place for opposition. And the third one is what unifies both of them. Right? In the vernacular of the secular world, you have what is called as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Right? You have a thesis, which is a scientist comes along and proposes whatever it is, a scientific theory. And then you have the antithesis. Someone comes along and says the complete opposite. And then you have someone who puts those ideas together and kind of makes sense of both of them and comes to a conclusion. That's synthesis, or number 3. And this is the idea of strengthening that comes from the number 3. So the strengthening comes in 2 ways. Aleph, from above. It comes from the power above. This is a strengthening that comes from above, a level of holiness that is drawn on from above to below. The call Makoim in all places. Even the place of opposition. That what makes the number 3. This is the Jewish people call it Am Segula, a cherished nation. A Segula is also the same root of a segul, which is the vowel in the Hebrew language that is 2 dots with a dot underneath it. 3. Segula, because we're Tiferet. This is Yaakov. This is Yisrael. This is the counterbalancing of 2 opposite energies. And it starts with the idea that number 3 brings down a level of godly energy that is superior to both the first and the second. And it encompasses the holiness, even the opposition. And that's what makes it so powerful. And when the energy comes from above to below, from God drawing it down from above the upper worlds down to the physical world, it's called bli gvul, meaning it's an energy that does not really take a reckoning to the world and is a spiritual power, a divine light, if you will, that's loftier than what the vessels of the world normally can contain. Then you have the second level of strengthening, and this is from Mitzad HaTachtoin, from below. This is elevating the lower reality and bringing that energy back above. It's called an energy from below to above. The batal hamineged, and this nullifies the opposition as well. And not only that, it transforms this energy, this opposite energy, to good, because now the transformation is taking place from the physical world, and then you're elevating everything that's down up. And both of these levels are hinted on the chazak that we say at the end of both of these parshas together, matos v'masa. Chazak parshas mato yisu chazak b'tocha b'tzad hayon. And the strengthening from parsha matot comes from a strengthening that's above. This is the first level of strengthening. And Hashem spoke to Moshe to speak to the heads of the tribes. This is something that was commanded directly from Hashem. And this is a level of godly energy from above to below, as we just said. This is connected to matot, precious matos, where it is nullifying the energy from below it because it's coming from a higher place. And then you have the chazak of precious masay, which is a strengthening from the lower up. And these are the journeys of the Jewish people that traveled from the land of Egypt. And this is the strengthening and the power of the work of the Jewish people in rectifying and elevating the lower aspects of creation. Now understand something. This is an important lesson in general. Often, sometimes we can get frustrated where we're holding in our lives, in our avodat Hashem. We feel like nothing's moving, that we're doing the same thing all the time. We're not getting any enjoyment out of it. Nothing's going. What you don't realize is that God is putting us through paces where we're strengthening ourselves, and often we don't realize. It's very important. These are two main ingredients for all success in life: patience and persistence. You mustn't give up. You must keep going ahead, and you have to be patient because God is the one who determines at what point in time things are revealed to you, and you're able to establish what is called a higher state of awareness or consciousness, to go deeper into Mashiach awareness in your reality, into Geula, if you will. And this comes in time, and God controls the time. We don't control the time, right? It says in Shahar B'Tachon, the gate of trust, that you cannot speed up what is not meant to go faster, and you can't slow down what is not meant to go slower. In other words, we just have to keep at it. And a lot of times what seems like a waste of time or energy, but what we're doing is we're strengthening, right? Emunah comes from the root from omen. An omen is a worker, it's a tradesman, it's an artisan. It's someone who has become adept at their trade. So you have an omen, you have an artisan, right? You have someone who's become a master painter. How did he become a master painter? He didn't wake up one day with a thing of paint, just start smacking some stuff together, although that's what a lot of modern art looks like. That person has developed that skill over time. And that's the same root for Amunah. Amunah is a skill that is developed over time. It is a muscle that is strengthened from using it. If the second things got difficult, all of a sudden, all right, I know God's going to help me, and 5 seconds later, the bracha came, that's not strengthening your Amunah. To strengthen, to become an artisan, to become a Baal Amunah, means that even when you don't see what it is that you're doing, the purpose, you know that there is a purpose. And what's happening is that you're strengthening yourself. And so this is one of the reasons the Jewish people spend so much time in Egypt. There's a reason we're spending so much time in the Galus now. There's a reason for all of our journeys in the desert. Those are not just collective journeys. A journey in the desert in an individual life is a desert means there's no water, there's no food, meaning that divine awareness is concealed from us. That God is trusting us, so to speak. He's letting us steer the ship, even though he's ultimately running the whole show. That we have to go through these difficult times where we don't feel God omnipresent in our lives. These are part of the journeys, and these are part of the things that are strengthening us. And as we journey through these steps, these paths in the desert, we're constantly changing. There are a multitude of levels of different stages, and sometimes we would travel for days and weeks, sometimes for very short periods of time. Everything based on the lower reality of where we are. Right? The same thing with our life. Sometimes we have opposition in various aspects of our life. Sometimes it comes all at once, right? We're getting it from all sides. That's part of the terrain of traversing down here in this physical world. And these are all part of the continual movement and journeys to go from Egypt to the land of Israel, right? And again, Israel and Egypt are not just physical places. They're states of consciousness. Mitzrayim is Mitzarim. It's a place of constricted consciousness. Israel is, amongst other things, Lirosh. It means I have a head. It's a part of what we call as Mochin Gadlut. When we open up our consciousness and we're able to see much bigger and broader than the immediate thing that's in front of us. So the journey from restricted, constricted consciousness to expansive consciousness is not a simple journey. It takes time. And ultimately, you've got to break through dark places and to reveal bigger light. But it's like digging in the earth, right? You don't dig a few hammers and say, oh, there's nothing here, I'm done, right? That's not how it works. You have to keep digging and digging and digging, and eventually you find you find. That's where the treasures are, my friends, from digging. So according to this, we have to understand why that Chazak is connected specifically to Maseh, to the journey, to the last book of the Torah of Bamidbar. Since the strengthening and the power comes from a place that there's opposition, this is emphasizing even more the refinement of the lower parts. Because it's the opposition, it's the challenge that is what makes us stronger, right? The old Jewish word that where the oil, and when the olive gets squeezed, the oil comes out. When you do river rafting, right? We went river rafting in Peru. God willing, we'll go again this year in Nicaragua. But the rapids are created from the movement over the rocks. That's why it's very dangerous. You're supposed to wear helmets, and because the water beneath the river is very rocky. If there's no rocks there, there's no current. The current is when that water hits those rocks so quickly, and every rock it hits, it picks up, and then all of a sudden when it's quiet, it's because there's no rocks there. So the opposition is what's causing the strength of the rapids. It's the same idea in our life. The opposition of what we go through is what is strengthening us and giving us the ability to overcome it. It's kind of an oxymoron, but that's how it works. 1 second, I lost my spot. שלא זה בלבד שחוזק בתורה הקדושה נמשך מהר בכל מקום, מבלי להתחשב במציאות המנהג, אלא ועוד זריז. ישנו התחזקות עם המנהג לביטל למקום מקום, ועד ההפך לקדושה. So the idea is that the strengthening specifically comes from journeys, from traveling, because the strength is coming even more through the opposition on the journey. So it's not only that you're strengthening in a kedusha, but what you're doing is you're overcoming the opposition, and that overcoming of the opposition allows you to nullify that opposition and transform it to holiness. And the ultimate completion of strength is when you combine these two components together, matot and masai, right? So what does the Rebbe mean by that? Chayzik b'matot, the strengthening of matot, matos, yesh bo malas or hakadusha shlemala mahabala. The advantage is this tremendous light that comes from above without any opposition. There's nothing that could stand in that light from God. It totally nullifies anything in its path. But the strength is coming from above. And it's not relevant to the existence of the lower reality, which is which is opposing this energy. And that's the strength of Mas. That this has the advantage of nullifying the opposition. Because the lower is not, in order for the situation of the lower, that it's not coming to strengthen in a way that is totally, that there's no more opposition. What I mean, that the idea is, hold on a second, I got it. Give me 1 second, I'm for blundered here. Okay, here's Shamal Habita, I mean naked. This is the but from the side of the lower, it is not coming to strengthen of bligul from above. In other words, the power from above, there's no reckoning for the below. So it's an overwhelming power. There's overcomes below, but it doesn't deal with the opposition of it, if you will. In other words, it's just a power from above, but the idea is it's not causing you to become stronger or strengthen you. Let's just relate this in our individual lives. When God is the one who's constantly bringing blessings, although he does everything himself, but like when it's really coming from Hashem himself, ultimately it's not strengthening us, right? It's like, a parent and a child. If a parent continually just does everything for the child may think that's wonderful, but the child is not getting any stronger. They're not developing any skills. They're not learning to overcome their own challenges because it's like, all right, mommy and daddy will take care of it for me. That light from above, that's the idea. It's not causing any strengthening. It's not causing any ability to deal with the opposition. It's just totally taking care of everything, but it's not allowing this growth from below, which is more permanent. And therefore, the Rebbe says, the ultimate completion of the strengthening is combining both of these energies together. Because they both have an advantage. One is to strengthen the power of drawing down this light from above without any boundaries or limitations, if you will. And you have the strength that's coming from the nullification of transforming the lower reality, which is from below to above. And that's the idea, that both of these energies to come together. So the upper power brings down the energies from above, and it gives us the power to overcome our enemies, if you will, our obstacles in such a way that it becomes permanent. Otherwise, what happens? It's like shining a light in your enemy's face, and then when the light goes away, for a moment they're stunned, and then all of a sudden the light goes away, and they're there. They're still there. They're still coming at you. Nothing's changed. The idea is to strengthen us so that when our power from below is connected to God's power above, when we overcome the challenges in our life, we have now established a new skill, a new ability, a new consciousness, a new awareness. Now, when we confront those challenges or difficulties in our lives, we know how to deal with them. We have the tools, right? It's like, oh, I've done this before. Now I know what I need to do, right? So that comes from us. That's from the lower power from below. So the idea is to balance both of these energies together. Dalit. Oh. And the Rebbe said the ultimate completion and unification of these two energies, Matus and Masai, upper and lower powers, specifically takes place in the number 4. Right? We've learned up to this place about the number 3. Right? The number 3 is a chazaka, that it takes the energies of the first and second and balances them out and brings permanence. But now the Rebbe is introducing a new level, which is the number 4. Na'asiyas hashleimos chazak sheparshas matos amasai b'yisrom shel sefer rivi v'torah, and that's why we have the completion of Matos and Masai, and they're strengthening at the end of the 4th book of the Torah, the Midbar. That even though number 3 is indicative of strength, and the strength is coming from the side of overcoming the opposition. Nevertheless, it's a continuation of the numbers 1 and 2. And therefore, that number 3 still has a relevance to the first 2 that it preceded. כלומר, אף שמחובר באחד שאיננה המשכה מלמעלה למטה, גם השני, וכמקום ניגש בו חיבור של בייס קווים. That's, even though the 3 is higher than the first 2, it is still encompassing the energy of the first 2. It's completing, if you will, the first 2. But now the Rebbe is saying, true completion, shlemot hamitis, choizik v'toicher, hi v'revi'i, is to the number 4. Darga miyuchedes b'fnei atzma, she'eino memshech la'echad v'sheni. Because number 4 is now standing in and of its own. It's not relevant to the first 2 anymore. In other words, you have the first 2, and then you have the third. But the third is still connected to the first 2, because it's encompassing them. But the number 4 is not connected to either one of them. It encompasses the whole thing. So the 3 is, if you will, is like a buffer between the 4 and the 1 and the 2. Meaning that 4 is the ultimate completion, because it takes into account the first and the second and the third that's bringing those energies together, and it puts them all together. Because it's a unique number in and itself, and it's not a continuation of 1 and 2. And this brings about the ultimate completion in a way of hitchavut, which means like now it's calm, it's rested. Because the number 3, if you will, it's like, trying to use an example, it's popping in my head. You have like someone that's like, like there's these opposite energies, and they come and they're, all right, I've got both of you, right? Now I got both of you. But the person who's containing, like 2 people are fighting, right? And the person who's holding them both back, all right. His energy is stopping that, but he's still connected to those 2. The 4th one comes along, and he has no connection to those. He just comes and brings the whole thing into a state of ultimate calmness. כמו כיסא של 4 רגליים, שבאופן של התשבות יוסר מכיסא של 3 רגליים. And we see this in a chair. That obviously you can sit in a 3-legged chair, but it's still not, it's stable, right? Tripod, it's stable. But it's not the same as when you add that 4th leg. That 4th leg is now, it's permanent. Now that chair, you could jump on it, you could put a ring on it, do whatever you want on it, as long as it's strong enough, right? Because it's got 4 legs, and the whole thing is really balanced and strong. But you know our Rebbe is not going to stop there. He must continue. Ooh. But now we're going to introduce a new level, and this is the 5th level. And everything, by the way, of redemption is connected to 5. Well, it's connected to 8 as well. 8 and 5 are both numbers, very strong numbers of redemption. 8 is above the nature. 5 is also above the nature. It's counting the 5th world of Adam Kadmon, primordial man that encompasses all of creation together. And it's the 5th level of, according to the Sefer Yetzirah, the 5th coupling, which is Keter and Malchus. This is not inside. I'm just telling you this from the outside, which is the ultimate coming together of Moshiach, of the godly energy from above and below, to literally transform this whole world. And that's what's happened right now. Hashem is shaking the klippas out of their homes. There'll be bye. Because as we finish the 4th book of the Torah, we begin the 5th book of the Torah. And we're completing the 4th book of the Torah in the month of Menachem Av, Chodesh Chamishi, which is the 5th month. Yadua Chamishi hu dagar hachi na'alis eshlamayla medrega mebedina hadbala. The Bible said histoshlus. And the number 5 brings about a whole new level of reality. What is that whole new level of reality? It's completely above Seder Hishtalshelus. The Seder Hishtalshelus, or the chain of creation, where actually God began the process of what we call true creating is really from the level of the world of Bria and down, because the world of Atzilus is not really part of creation. It's still a world of what we call emanation, meaning it's still pure godly energy. It's just now starting to separate into vessels and lights. Anyhow, but the Seder Hishtashtus, the four worlds that we talk about all the times in Kabbalah and Chassidut, Atzilus, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, that is called the chain of creation. Collectively, how God brought something from nothing, physical from spiritual, if you will. But the level 5 is above that. That is a level, as we've learned in these teachings, Chamishis Paroi. The 5th level of Paroi, his Parario, his Galim, Mine Kol Nohari, as the Zohar says, these very high, lofty, uncontrollable lights, which are connected to the world of Tohu, which is divine energy, way, way, way above the world, above even the spiritual worlds. And this power has the ability specifically to unify both of these lines, the drawing down from above and the elevating to and the elevating up below, but tachlis shleimus in its ultimate state of completion, because now it's a whole new level, even above the number 4, because now you're connected to a level of power, if you will, that is, it's kind of hard to put it in context of what we said earlier, because it's kind of hard to explain this level, because it's above anything that can really even come into words or to concepts, if you will. But it's a level of godly energy that is sublime, that there's just no words to explain. Not that the level 4 is not, or any of them for that matter. Anyways, this brings about the ultimate completion of everything, right? Yeah. Hey. על פי זה יש דבר הקשר והשקס חזק ונתחזק על ספר רביעי, שמסיימים בשבס פרשת מטוס ומסע, לתוכן הזמן דגם השבועות. And now we see a connection to the fact that this all takes place in the 3 weeks. והקדמה, first of all, שהכוונה בתכליס החורבן הגלוס, that the ultimate destruction of the first 2 temples, he all Manas levo ma'ala v'hashlimus b'inyan beis hamikdash hasi the gula hasida. That first of all, this level of destruction really is only from our perspective. From God's perspective, nothing is destroyed. And in fact, we learned that the first 2 temples were only building blocks, if you will, for what will be the 3rd and final temple. And by the way, anyone who is studies the esoteric wisdoms of Kabbalah and Chassidus and is looking in the world in a deeper reality of what we see right now, none of this crap that you see, that America is pressure. I don't get me started, because I'll go berserk. They're bombing us. So imagine that someone is in your house and they're breaking in your house and they have a gun and they're shooting up your house, and you're picking up the phone and you're calling your supposed friend who lives in the another end of the world, another country, and say, they're trying to kill me. Is it okay if I use my gun to save myself? Wait, hold on. I shouldn't shoot too strong. How many bullets am I allowed to shoot? Okay, all right. It shouldn't cause any problems. Okay, I'll try not to hurt him too bad. That's what Israel does every single time. They call America like a little lapdog. What do? They're trying to destroy us again. Is it okay for us to fight back? It's such a beyond sickness. There's no rational explanation. It's such deep state operatives. It's disgusting. But moving that aside for a second, all of this is not about elections. This is not about Biden or Harris or Trump or this country. There's only one game that's being played right now, and that is the Beis Hamikdash. If you ever watch Beavis and Butthead, I am the great Cornelio. Are you threatening me? I need tippy for my bungle. Get all worked up over here. It's all about one thing: the Beis Hamikdash. Right now, all you're seeing is facets. Hezbollah, Hamas, Hutim. It's all BS. Right now, all that is left is God and Melech HaMashiach and the Samech Mem. The Samech Mem, the Satan, the Prince of Darkness, the forces of evil, Amalek, whatever you want to call it. It's one power. It's just tentacles. That's all it is. And it's a final war against God. And their entire objective, right? It was printed in one of these moron towelhead countries, Iranian news or something like that. After they struck Israel, they put a whole printing thing. Now for sure their temple won't be rebuilt. That's all they're focusing on right now. Stopping the Beis HaMikdash from being rebuilt. And all we're focusing on is rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash. Everything else is just noise. It's complete noise. All the stuff that's going on in the world, all the nations and the UN, it's all bullshit. That's it. This is the final end game. The Beis HaMikdash. Yes? No. We know the answer is yes. They're doing everything to stop it. Because the second that Beis HaMikdash comes out from heaven, it's game over. They're finished for life. No more klipa. No more of the sick garbage that they're doing, that they're trying to ram down everyone's throats. It's gone forever. So every single move the klipa is doing is trying to cause strife, aggravation, trying to get us to fight amongst each other, especially in Israel, especially amongst the Jewish people, because they know that's how they can stop the Beis HaMikdash from coming. At least how they can pause it temporarily, because there's no way, that train's not stopped, but it's happening. So all of that is connected. That is the entire game that's going on right now, and there's nothing other than that. Everything else is just noise. So the idea is that third temple that is going to come down is going to be a chazaka. The Beis HaMikdash Shlishi is going to be permanent. There'll be no more gullus. That will be the end of all negative energy in the world. And that is where really our attention needs to be on right now. It needs to be on knowing that, you know what? Maybe I don't feel like davening or putting on tefillin or eating kosher or whatever the hell it is. But you know what? Don't do it for yourself. Say to yourself, look what's going on with our brothers and sisters in Israel right now. Look at what the Jewish people, we are blessed. We are. Even though we're in the Gullus, to be in living where we live. Because Jews in America, you know how many states in America, a Jew walks down the street, they get harassed, they get things thrown at them. It's like Nazi Germany. It's disgusting. Disgusting. For those people is who we need to do mitzvahs for. For the Jewish people in Israel, for the soldiers who are risking their lives every day, that's why we have to do what we're doing. We have to go beyond this individuality of what makes me feel good or I'm in the mood, I'm not in the mood. And we have to say to ourselves, we need to do whatever we can to bring the Beis HaMikdash. And I know that every time I overcome my Yetzer Hara, I'm helping to put a brick in the Beis HaMikdash. And that's where we have to focus on, especially in these 3 weeks. We have to focus on when we do a mitzvah, we do anything, pause for a second. Just stop. I'm giving the tzedakah in the merit of Mashiach and Gula. I'm putting on this tefillin to protect the soldier. I'm going to daven now to help bring the Beis HaMikdash. Get out of our individual mindset and go into this general idea of that's what we're doing. We're building the third Beis HaMikdash. Explain it a different way. And the advantage of the third temple is it is a temple that will be established by God's own hands. Na'amra kavar b'shiras hayam, as we sang in the song of the sea. But no the beginning of Beis HaMikdash tzrichu lehavanois v'haknisa the eretz techaf miyad, and happen immediately. The Beis HaMikdash is built. It's such a trippy thing. The entire Beis HaMikdash is built. It's in heaven. It's spiritually totally set up there. Our job, to bring it down to earth. We know that if we would have entered into the land of Israel at that time, if Moshe would have let us in, that would have been the end. Would have been the third Beis HaMikdash. Game over. No galus. So why did God put us through all of this mess? That's what we're learning about, to strengthen us, to teach us, to show us that we need to, of course it's all from Hashem, and of course it's all His power, but we need to add our own secret sauce. We need to do it our way. We have to do it in a way that is going to strengthen us and that's going to bring redemption to us and to the Jewish people and to the whole world. There is to say that all the matters of the Torah are true and eternal. Hold on a second. Saktin, ישנה גם עתה, העניין לגאולה נצחית ובית המקדש נצחי באופן שחזק בתוכן. So, generally speaking, all these matters that we have to also apply in our times. That there is also now this matter of the true and complete geula and the eternal base of Migdash, which will be permanent and strong forever. And that's what happened in the previous base of Migdash. The first base of Migdash came from above, and it was this very high, lofty energy. It was a blessing from God, but we didn't have the vessels, if you will, for it. We didn't do the painstaking labor to make sure that it stayed here, and therefore it was kaput. The second base of Migdash was from our power, but the intense light from above wasn't there, and it was kaput. So what do we need? We need both. The lo. And that's why the third temple is not going to be just from the lower part, because the lower is limited, like the second temple. And that's why the third temple will be permanent and eternal. Because all these energies we're talking about, this matot and masai energies, the upper and lower energies, God's power and our power, lights and vessels, there's a masculine and feminine energies, ma and ban, there's a million ways to describe what we're talking about. But the main thing to understand is that is what's happening in the world, my friends. It said, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach said in Basi Lagani Osikala. Now we're talking about when the Rebbe first took over as Rebbe, 1951, 80 years ago, 84 years ago. What is there? Something on these levels. That's what he said. He said, in the times of war, the king's treasure chest is opened. What does that mean? It means all the energies from above, the matot energy, the powerful energy from God, it's here in the world. The only reason you see such destruction is because we have not succeeded in putting that energy into vessels. The same tohu you see in that world out there is the reflection of the tohu that's going on in here and in our own individual lives. If there's chaos in our lives, it's because the light that God is giving us, we're not putting properly into a vessel. It's not entered deep into that vessel. It's not permanent. Because when it's permanent, the chaos stops. Chaos comes from this coming together of an energy and a vessel that cannot contain that energy, which is blocking and not allowing it to flow. So the idea is we need to combine both of these energies in order that we have a permanent temple, right? That's talking about our own, not just, of course, we're talking about the Gula Mitzvah Shlema, but I do my best to try to make these sikhs applicable to our day-to-day lives, and that's also talking about redemption in our own individual life, to make our temple, our body, a proper dwelling place for God. So it's not chaos. So it's not this constant up and down and highs and lows and massive, bipolar energies. But וזהו החילוק שבין בית המקדש, בית ראשון ובית שני לבית המקדש שלישי. And this is the difference between the first and second and third temples. The first temple, Beit Rishon Shebana Alidei Shlomo, which was built through Shlomo Melech, Shenamar Bo V'Yashav Shlomo Al Kisei Hashem. It's known that Shlomo Melech sat on the chair of God. Hayat Iker, and every time we give the sikha, I give this mashal because I just think it's so freaking cool. I don't remember what Gemara it's in, but in one of the suffers in the Talmud, in the Gemara, it says that Shlomo HaMelech, that when he sat on the chair of God, it says it was complete, trippy stuff. First of all, the chair was like this highly, I can't explain it. It was like all these levers and movements. And it wasn't like a normal throne. It was a throne that only Shlomo HaMelech could sit on. If someone else tried to sit on it, boom, it ejected him. It's like from the cartoon, it was like, boing, it just shot up. They couldn't sit in the chair. Only Shlomo HaMelech could sit in the chair. Because it was designed around his body in such a way that it was perfect. Literally, what is perfect? It's what we're talking about, where the energy, it's like the hand in the glove. The upper energy and the lower energy, they were there. It was Shlomo, Shalom, it was peace. And therefore, when King Shlomo sat in his divine throne, only for him. Because it was perfect built for him. And this is my favorite part, the keter, the crown he wore, said there was lines there. You can't understand what this means. I don't understand it. In other words, inside the crown, it wasn't just a hollow like an empty hat. Inside the curvature of the crown, there was bars in all kinds of interesting shapes and patterns. And Shlomo Melech had grooves inside of his head. It's hard to understand how this is possible. It's that his head wasn't like, if you rubbed your head across Shlomo Melech's head, there'd be ridges. It wouldn't be smooth. So all these ridges aligned with his crown. So when his crown went on his head, it sat down perfect. And only sat on Shlomo Melech's head. No one else could wear his crown, and no one else could sit in his chair. So they give you an idea how the energy lined up. And this was an energy coming from above. God arranged all of this in a perfect way. But nevertheless, the energy from below, even though God arranged all this perfectly, and in the times of Shlomo there was peace, nevertheless, the world itself still had not been transformed. And therefore, the energy of the world was not able to contain this high, lofty energy of the first temple, and therefore it got destroyed. The second, and of course, yes, according to the Pshat, the temple was destroyed for baseless hatred, the second temple, and there's reasons given if you look at the Nigla, but the Arab is taking us to a deeper place. He's taking us to a place of Kabbalah and Hasidut, where saying that it was destined to happen. It was destined to happen because it was God's will, because it wasn't complete, because that's not how it was made. Ezra, in the times of Ezra, the second temple was built. And this was mostly from below. In such a way from below to above. And therefore we see that even though the second temple was more connected to the physicality of the world, it was from below, nevertheless it also got destroyed. Why? And it was known that 5 things were missing from the second temple. Now, were the holy objects that were not in the second temple, that were in the first temple. Why? Because it didn't contain the same level of holiness. It was more connected to the lower part of reality. And the unique thing about the third temple and the complete redemption, this will reach the ultimate unification of the upper and lower together as one. And therefore it will reach its ultimate state of completion, and will be an eternal temple and an eternal redemption. No more goals. We can't understand what that means. Can you begin to comprehend what that means? You'll have no more aggravation. You'll have no more problems with money, with health, with anything. That there'll be nothing bad anymore. Can't understand what that means. Is to say, that the advantage of the third temple and the third redemption that sometimes it's called the fourth redemption. The Fatmim Gam B'Shem Gula Chamishis, and sometimes it's called the fifth redemption, depending on where you count our exiles. There's different ways of counting generally speaking, you don't count Egypt as the exile, as one of our exiles, because it encompasses all of it. It's not the place for it. Anyways, Darga is Mirchedes B'Fnei Atzmai, and the number 5 we know is a level in and of itself. Shekivan she'eno b'meshek la'achar b'sheni murgar she'yod ha'mayim ha'magadrim ha'yom ha'tachton ha'chinasa all zeh chivor ha'yom ha'tachton zay. And is a mudgash b'Shabbos chazak mispar revi'i she'yemei bein ha'mitzrim. And now we want to connect and emphasize that this is Shabbos Hazak, connected to the number 4 of the fourth book of the Torah we're completing, and its connection to the time we're in the 3 weeks. To announce Hazak means Chazeh, Shabbos Parshas Matos U'Maser Merumzas. Chozek Beis Hamikdash Shlishi Gula Shlishis. Shabo la'acher by Rishon by Sheni Ayri Chivor Beis Hamalas Shnehem Yom Tachlein Amshagol Ala Kumuza Betakan Chivor Matzos Umas. Just like the first and second temple were destroyed, as we said above, and the third temple brought eternity. Same idea of what we're talking about now. Chivor Hu Revi'is, the unification of the first and second with the number 3, and then joining it together with the number 4, as we said earlier. Excuse me. Siyami Sefer Revi'i. Shmura al darga b'fnei atzmai sh'lamanu legamri mahadregel hayom hatachton sha'al yidei nasa chibur hayom hatachton b'beis hamikdash hasida v'gula v'sida v'yesh lamar shapati nispari shayich l'beis hamikdash hasida v'gula v'sida v'remezor gam b'zman shabo korim b'parshas matzos u'masek which is chazak means chazek. I'll say Revi'i, and we say Hazak, which is connected to 3, on the 4th book of the Torah, and during the 3 weeks, and this is hinted on the advantage of the third temple, the base of Mikdash Shlishi, and in the 4th month, which is Tammuz, which we're completing, the Rebbe is tying in all these 3, 4s, and 5s we learned earlier, and the 4th redemption, Gula HaRevi'is, B'chodesh HaMishi, and we're entering into the 5th month of Menachem Av, the 5th, connected to number 5, Geula Chamishis, which is the 5th and final redemption. Excuse me. And the whole idea the Rebbe says is to strengthen ourselves in Torah mitzvot. Because in the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. We don't get out of this mess on our own. We didn't get put into this on our own. We have to strengthen our connection to God. And this is the reason that we spent so long in the exile, to give us the opportunity to increase in our deeds of Torah and mitzvot. And that's why the final temple will be eternal, because all this work that we've been doing is strengthening, it's fortifying us and the physical world to be a proper vessel for the true and complete redemption. Yes. In Noisef b'Shabbos zu b'Hakashraim Erev Shabbos May Shetarach be'Erev Shabbos Yochol b'Shabbat. And we see, as we know, that it's connected also to Erev Shabbos. And it says on Erev Shabbos, it says when you're supposed to taste of the food of Shabbos before Shabbat. Erev Shabbat, it means like to prepare you, put you in the Shabbos mode. And that year in particular, it was Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av. Meforash b'kara b'parsha Seinu. Ya'ala Aroin HaKohen, all har goimer. Yomaz ga Shem b'chodesh ha'chamishi b'echad ha'chodesh. Yom Hilula shel Aaron HaKohen. So, Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av, which this year is going to take place on Monday, August 5th, exactly 1 week from today, is going to be the first day of the 5th month. The 8th day of the 5th month is my birthday. We're having a big Farbrengen, Baruch Hashem, hopefully in the Beis Hamikdash. But the first day of the 5th month is the Yom Helula, the day of the passing of Aaron HaKohen. Hakdama. In זה יום חמישה נתפרש בתורה שבסיבוב. וחידוש שלו מצינו דגומש בכל תורה כולו. And it says there's a unique thing about Aaron HaKohen, because it says Aaron HaKohen is literally the only person that in the written Torah, it says the exact date of his passing. We know Moshe was born and passed on the 7th day of Adar, but that's not written in the Chumash. Either Abraham, Yitzchak, or Yaakov doesn't say when, or Yosef, when they passed. Only Aaron HaKohen, it specifies in the Torah the day of his passing. How could it be? There is to say, Rumas, Klados, and Vorosha Aaron HaKohen, Shulchin, Naseh, B'yom, the Gamma Vashleim as a Vorosha. Call myself a Torah, Asher Aver Koy Mechayav, Miskalo Amira, Milman Lamata. Before Yishna, the Karab Ha'arts, because on Aaron HaKohen is connected to, it says on the day of someone's passing, that all their deeds and all their Torah learning and all their divine service is elevated to a much higher level. And the fact that Aaron HaKohen is the only one that is actually specified the exact day of his passing in the Chumash, in the written Torah. So obviously there's something very special about Aaron HaKohen that he has, that did not, the other Avos and Moshe Rabbeinu did not merit to have their day of passing written in the Torah. Test. And we can learn about Aaron HaKohen's work from the day of his passing, when all of his holy work is elevated. It says when Aaron passed, the entire house of Israel, all of the Jewish people cried for 30 days. Nashim, men and women. And one of the reasons is that Aaron ran after peace and pursued love. That he loved peace and he pursued peace. And he loved all of God's creations and he brought them close to the Torah. Excuse me. So that Aaron HaKohen was connected to the Enei HaShemayah, the clouds of glory. Ba'al example, Parshasino. V'hem shech lemitas Aharon Amar Yishma HaKanani. Lamdacha Shmitis Aharon Hu Shema Nistachos Enen HaKavoy. Abira HaKasha V'Shtakos Devishin Niyaman Burgashis Lemitas Aharon Gamor V'Shlemus Avoda Yislamor Amar Lemicharas Enen HaKavoy Shayu V'Zochos Aharon Gam Legavi Man Hamayim. And it says that the clouds of glory, we know, were attributed to Aaron HaKohen. The water was attributed to Miriam's well, right? And the man that came out, that was this was Moshe. So what's the difference? That the man came out precisely measured for each one according to what it was that they needed, right? You had 5 family members, you had 5 portions. If you try to take extra, it would rot. You would get exactly what you needed. And same thing with the water that is attributed to Miriam. Each one got the exact amount of water measured out for their specific needs. This is not the case with the clouds of glory who are attributed to Aaron HaKohen. That the clouds spread around all the Jewish people equally. All the Jewish people equally. Meaning every single one of the Jewish people got covered by the clouds on an equal basis. Not like the water, each one got what they needed. Not like the man, each one got what they needed. But the clouds, everybody equally. And this is part of this idea that he loved peace and pursued peace. As a race from the Torah and brought the creation close to the Torah. And this represents the Achdus, the unity, the oneness that Aaron HaKohen represents, where his main mission in life was to bring about Achdus, to bring about oneness, to focus not on what divides us, but on what unites us. And by doing so, he's able to bring peace to everyone, right? Because in the end of the day, we really, if we want to, can find things that unify us, not only just as Jewish people, but as human beings. It's only the machinations of the Yetzer Hara that tries to get us to focus on our differences. Why not focus on the things we have in common? Because the Yetzer Hara doesn't want peace. He wants war. He wants destruction. Yud. And this is also hinted in the name Aaron. Har Acharon, who in an Ohava. This is connected to this whole concept of love. Hagdamas ha'alef, but you're adding, it's Aaron's name, right? You have Har is in the middle, Hey Resh. You have an Aleph at the beginning and a Nun at the end. So Har is connected to this idea of Havats. It's another way to express love. The Aleph at the beginning is Marshal Sharash Ha'ava. This is referring to God, which is the source of all love and all good. Pele. Shlocheinu Hava'es Ahava Rabba, in abundant love. Shizau Chiluk Sheben Avraham La'aharon. And this is the difference between Avraham Avinu and Aaron HaKohen. They both come from the right kav, the right line, which represents love and kindness. But the measurement of chesed of Abraham is connected to chesed as it descends into what is known as the right arm, or in the chain of creation. But the connection of love and kindness and peace from Aaron HaKohen is above what we call the chain of creation. It comes what we call love that is ahava rabba, that is not connected or bound to any type of limitations. Tevas Aharon, and we see this Ahava Rabba, this abundant love expressed in his name. Aleph Hey, now we're taking the first two letters. Rasha Tevas Ahava, Rasha Tevas Rabba, Ahava Rabba. This is the first two letters. Vahanun, Pishuta Mura'al, Hamshaka Mispashus. Hey, Bechinas Ahava Rabba, Lamata Lamata. Excuse me, Lamata Lamata. And the Nun, the final Nun, is drawing down this abundant love from above to below. Even to the Jewish people that are at the lowest place. The Torah, that the Nun went down below the line, and that's indicative of the love that he has even to those in the lowest of places. And because Aaron HaKohen comes from such a lofty place, such a high elevated place, he has the power to draw down his energy into the lowest aspect of creation and unify the Jewish people, even no matter what situation they may be in. Yud Aleph. Pratius Yaiser, and more specifically. Mudgashi Beninai, Shaharai, Chibor Ba'achdus Beis Kavi, and more specifically, the emphasizing of this level of Aaron HaKohen, who draws down and brings together these two lines from above to below. Is because he comes from a level that is even above from the division between upper and lower. Because we know that Aaron HaKohen, the main blessing is what we call the Berkat Kohanim, the blessing of the Kohanim. Mitzvahs aseh min haTorah. It's a positive mitzvah in the Torah. Shibiruchu haKohanim as Yisrael b'kol yoim and nesias kapan. And it says that one of the blessings, one of the, mitzvahs of the Torah is that the Kohanim should bless the congregation. With their hands. And we know that we do this outside of Israel every Yom Tov. The Eretz Yisrael, and in the land of in Israel, we do it daily. At least in Yerushalayim, we do it daily. And in other places in Israel, you do it just on Shabbat. We call it tefillah, mean had tefillot b'yom. We do brachas kohanim yishnei b'yisam ma'ilus bracha b'tefillah gam yichad. And a Berkat Kohanim has the advantage of both prayer and blessings. It unifies them both together. The advantage of a bracha is that it draws down from above to below. The advantage of prayer is you're elevating from below to above. And this, both of these energies are able to come from a place, from a Berkat Kohanim, that is above both of them, and therefore any power that is above has the ability to combine. And there's the advantage of unifying both lines from above to below and below to above. And we learn in this whole sikha that that's the number 3 that combines these opposite energies, and that's why the Berkat Kohanim is called a bracha mishleshes, the 3-fold blessing, because there's 3 psukim in the Berkat Kohanim. Ben Shlosh Be'esri Umea Shana B'Moisei Bahar Hahar. That when he passed, he was Shlosh Be'esrim at 123 years old. Shnoisef Al Hashlemus Mea Be'esrim Shana. And this is showing the completion of 100, and the completion of 20, and of 3. Kishanach Chayav Shal Moshe Shana Marbo Hayoim Ahamai B'Shinai Kavushko Vihi Yemei Maya Be'esrim Shana. High Od Shlosh Shanim. Ispar Shlosh Shanim. Remez Kalos Avodas Chibur Vis. Okay, so the day he passed is connected to the length of his days, connected to all these combinations of these 3 things. Okay, Yud Beis. Valpi Zeh Yesh Lo Bar Hakasha Reshaychas the Dargas Avodas Aroin Liyom Yistar Chusay B'Chodesh Hamishit B'Chad B'Chodesh. And we see that it's connected to the fact that Aaron Cohen passed on the 5th month and the 1st day of the month. Chodesh Hamishi, the 5th month. Kasher v'shayach the dargas Hamishi shlemanu mishachus shemispar histarshlu shemisel histarshlu. That the number 5 we know is connected to a level of 5 that is above all the chain of creation, as we said earlier. This is like the 5th level of these highlights of Paro, the source of him in Kedusha. Kamen Chad Chodesh, and also the 1st of the month. Kasher v'shayach the dargas achdus shlemanu mitchalkus. This is the number 1 that we have. There's no opposition to it. We see this especially since it's Rosh Chodesh, the first day. There's no opposition. It's the first day in of itself. To say, and therefore we see that the Torah specifically mentions the day of passing of Aaron and Kohen. The Chodesh Hamishi Bechad the Chodesh on the 5th month on the 1st day. Rumzas and Nakuda Beikri is the call Masev as Asha Everkoy Mechayav, and all the days of his life of his Torah mitzvahs are elevated on that day. Echad Shalamayim Yishachu Shiva Echad Kachu Kehadarkas. Hein Baraga the Chibor Boifan Voda Hamshaka Vaha'ala Vahasha Barachas Akani. Hein Baraga Achdus the Kaki Lukahadarkas Shabbanisho Nigasha Sitna Kavod Zachusa. And all these blessings from all the work that the Arna Cohen did. And the fact that he loved peace and pursued peace. And this is the level 5 that is completely above anything else. As we said earlier, it's even above the chain of creation. And the fact that we're entering the month of Av, it's a preparation for 30 days from now of entering into the month of Elul, where it says, I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. Elevating from below to above and drawing down from above to below. And after that comes the month of Tishrei. Do you believe it? It's crazy. This year's over already. שעל ידי נעשה חיבור בייס קווים, בפרט יש יסר שבייס הדרגס האבר למטה למעלה למעלה למטה. אני לדורי ודורי לי, ואויס לאחרי הקדמה והאהבה רבה שלמעלה מסתר שלו סדר ההרואים, ויום מסתפס בחודש בשישי אחד בחודש. Okay, Yud Gimel. Oh wow, we're going to finish early tonight. Oras ma'amayim the ayal benogi lamasa before. And now we have to take everything that we have been learning and the excitement of this evening and transform it into action. The Rebbe says the main thing is the deed. It's wonderful to get to get excited and inspired, but we have to bring it to action. And we're standing at the Shabbos of strength in the end of the 4th book. And beginning the 5th book. And this is emphasizing the strength and the power of the 3rd Beis Hamikdash, the temple that will be eternal. Geula Chamishis, the 5th redemption. Excuse me. And the 3rd temple will encompass and be much more encompassing than the 1st or the 2nd temples, or the 1st and 2nd redemptions. Because it is connected to a level of achdus, of oneness. And when you have complete oneness and unity, there's no place for division. So first of all, the Rebbe says we must emulate Aaron Cohen, like it says in Pirkei Avos. We must be like the students of Aaron Cohen, meaning we must pursue peace and love peace and bring the God's creations to the Torah. And through this we can reach the state of unity, unity of oneness above any division. Over Pratius Yosher more specifically. Alpi do it Lashon HaMishnah. Ayu mitamidev sha'aroi. Ayu Lashon Sivoy. Ayu literally means like a commandment. She'ein zeh rak sipor al derek ben haga the medas chasidus. Chama ininim memestektas avos. Elit Sivoy v'hara. That this is a commandment. That it shouldn't be that you should raise up students like Aaron. Like it's a good idea or suggestion. The Rebbe said, read it like a commandment that you're obligated to do this. And base, mitamidav, daika, literally students. B'lashon rabbi, meaning multitude. It's not enough to say, I helped that one guy learn Torah. You got to raise up many students. Like Aaron Kohen, a rabbi, a multitude. Kenas soifrim tirba hachma. Tirba, daika. Shiriboy amitis il beli gvu. Hainu lo rak. Boy from Makal Meodacha, Ma'od Shalcha, after Gabi Chavero, Harab Dina Hadbala. It should be if you believe Gvu, Gambli, the Gabi Chavera. A mitzvah that like that this Talmidim you raise up must have the same powers that you do, a bli gvul, meaning no limitations, no boundaries. It's not enough to say, all right, well, I got this guy, you put on a kippah, leave him alone, he's good. No, everyone has to be full power. In addition to this will emphasize the connection and relevance to the love of the Jewish people that will be brought forth in the true redemption. And will not just be a nullification of the exile, and not only just for the reason of the exile. Because we are already at the threshold of redemption and we've completed all of the work in the times of the exile. The Achrisiyam, and we're already past the end. Call them based on the Sa'ot of the 42 journeys, but Midbar Hamim, amongst the nations of the desert of the nations of the world. And we're already crossing the Jordan River. Al Safa Gula, and we're at the threshold of redemption. And for sure, we've already fixed up all the reasons for the exile. In other words, you can't say, well, it's because there's no more reasons. All fixed. And we're emphasizing now the true love of the Jewish people. And this will surely bring about the true and complete redemption. And this will bring the completion of the point of unity that is above any division. And emphasizing the true unity of the Jewish people. From the fifth level of our soul, the Yechida, where we're all equal. And this is what Mashiach's soul is. Is the general soul of all the Jewish people. It's called the Yechida Klali. All the fifth levels of our soul connects to the fifth level of Mashiach. Makarban the Torah, and this is what it means to bring close to the Torah. And this is the intention, that we should bring everyone close and bring them to the learning of the Torah of Gula Mitzvah Shlema, the Torah of Mashiach, which is what we're learning here. The beginning, the Torah of Mashiach. That's what we learn every week here. Okay, we're going to pass through Dalit and move over to finish up to the last two. Test Vav. And this everything we've said above applies to the times we are in. That we're coming to the end of these 9 days. Today. And we must add in happiness to the Torah during these days. And how do we do that? Simcha l'gamor shel Torah. By finishing the sekta and having a siyum during the 9 days. Even though it's the God's custom not to eat meat during that siyum, nevertheless, we still do it to add and enjoy. Ki chizina tziruva marbanan the Shortus Avira, excuse me. Yom Taiva, the Rabbanan, Kol Ram Hafsech HaSadaka. And also we should increase in giving tzedakah because charity hastens the redemption. There should be in a way of fitting for the king. Simcha l'gamer shel Torah, Kol Gam HaKatani. When Hagi Yisrael and Hagam Bechorim Akatanim, that even like the little kids, etc. Hagira Shisoma Erev Pesach Eno Duma Hamama Baalma Ela Shach Gam Kisema Tisha Ayamin. Okay, a siyum Erev Pesach, just like we do a siyum for Erev Pesach, so the firstborn don't have to fast, even the little ones. Kisiyum Erev Pesach Hu Akana Legula Pesach. Just like the siyum that we have on Erev Pesach is a preparation for the redemption of Pesach. And the same idea, the siyum Tisha Yamim, the siyum that we have during the 9 days are a preparation for the true and complete redemption. And just like when I take you out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. And how much more so in this year. The year I will show you wonders. As we're standing on the threshold of redemption. The Hiratzon may be God's will. That we should express good resolutions. And they should hasten, and we should do them immediately in actuality. Mamish. And this will immediately bring forth the third redemption. And specifically now that we have already completed the 42 journeys amongst the nations of the world in the desert, in the times of the exile, and we're ready to cross the river into Israel. And we'll cross over to the land of Israel. Yerushalayim Kodesh, to the holy city of Jerusalem, the Beit Hamikdash Shlishi, and the third temple, the Kodesh Kadosh, to the holy of holies. Excuse me. And the dead will get up and dance from the dust. And Moshe and Aaron will be amongst them, and all the tzaddikim and all the leaders of the Jewish people. They will come up first. It says the righteous will rise first. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, souls and bodies, all the Yidden of our generation, our young and our old, our sons and our daughters, and we will all be learning the new Torah of Mashiach. Call Yisrael. And most important, it should happen right now in a revealed way. May we all see, live, feel, and breathe the full and final redemption right now. God bless you. Moshiach now.